One more cheque was written out for the airfares to the UK, but Renton had got wise. He had not written it in the cheque stub, so I didn't find out until the statement came. I was a born worrier, and I felt so angry, so I demanded to find out how I could get a refund. I looked in Renton's diary and phoned up Jerry Scriven. Jerry explained that since I had already bought the tickets, I had better make good use of them and that I would enjoy myself. Well, we had never left the children before, so I argued with Renton and told him that I wasn't going. Renton did everything possible to get me to go and finally persuaded me, as he said it would be a good break for both of us. When we arrived at the function, I could see that there were many other people there, and we sat right at the back. I had my arms folded, and I had left my coat on, and I was really stubborn. I showed clearly that I wasn't going to enjoy the weekend. I didn't pay much attention to the speakers that night, but on the Saturday night, Jerry and Polly Harteye spoke. I did listen to Polly and found myself relating to her because Polly was negative in the beginning. We then saw the recognitions, and I really began to enjoy the evening. But personal pride prevented me to tell Renton that I enjoyed it. I still had doubts. I knew that Renton wanted to be successful, but I really didn't think we could do it. I wasn't confident. I was shy, and I certainly could not stand on a stage like the speakers. Well, after the function, Renton was fired up. He talked of nothing else. Renton thought that once I had seen the bigger picture, that I could at least support him. But I couldn't see it working for us, and the more time and money he spent, the more I resented him and the business. Renton thought that I should listen to a tape by Jim and Pam Pierce. But there's no way a tape's going to change me. I refused to read the books. Renton tried on many occasions, one in particular, Total Woman. There was no way I was going to be brainwashed like all the rest of you. Anyway, you married me, so this is what you get, like it or lump it. My attitude wasn't quite right then. Well, things got from bad to worse at this stage, and I knew that Renton would not give up, so I made the decision to really make things difficult for him. I really thought that if I gave him enough grief, he'd quit. And I came back one day to find that all my perfumes, soaps, and everything in the cupboards replaced with products from the business. Well, I was really raging. I wasn't going to use anything that I didn't choose, and I poured the dish drops down the sink. And just as I was putting it in the bin, I saw all my perfumes and shampoos, so I rinsed them off and put them back on the shelf. And I packed up all the Amway products and put them in a box and threw them in the garage, along with anything else with Amway written on it. We had another high-volume discussion over this, and I told him that there was no way I was going to use those products. You know, anything that I'd be told to use. You know, several times Renton attempted to throw them out, but every time I rescued them, and it was turning out to be a full-scale war. I wanted my name off all the Amway mail, so I phoned up Amway, and they said that I would have to write with Renton's consent. I wrote the letter, Renton signed it, and I kept it in my bag for weeks. And Renton reminded me of that fact. I never posted it. I don't know why. I think I just wanted Renton to know just how I felt about the business, a bit of a threat. A few months later, Renton started to sponsor people, and the phone calls increased from upline and downline. One night it rang and rang whilst Renton was out, and by the sixth call my attitude was far from positive. The calls interrupted my favourite TV programmes, like Coronation Street. It rang when I was in the bath, and in those days I went to bed early, so many times it rang whilst I was in bed. 90% of the calls were for Renton, so whenever I answered, I would always call loudly, "It's for Mr. Amway." We stopped communicating with each other, and I never knew where he was or what time he would come home. Often Renton would come home from work, he would change, and then go straight out again. And deliberately, I would not have any shirts ironed for him, and once I paired up his socks to the wrong colours. Well, the second major function, family reunion, was coming up in July, and I was certain that Renton would not go. You see, it was my birthday that weekend, and I couldn't believe it when I found out that he paid for the 2 tickets without asking me first. Renton told me that he could take me out the following weekend, but I was mad that he chose the business. I flat refused to go this time, and the ticket was wasted. And anyway, I was fed up with everybody trying to persuade me to go. I knew Renton was serious about the business when I found out that he had sold our video recorder to afford those tickets. And just before he went to the function, he cut the plug off the television. Whilst Renton Whilst Renton was away that weekend, I saw that he had about 500 business cards printed with both of our names on. They were in the garage, and where he had set up his own little office. I didn't want my name on those cards. I didn't want to be associated with anything to do with the business. So I scored my name off every single one. I could have thrown them away, but I think at the time it was more satisfying for him to see that I destroyed them. This business won every time with Renton, so I was really going to let him know how I felt. All Renton's tapes, books were in the garage, along with the product sheets, which were all clipped together. I threw all of them in a nice heap on the floor. In fact, I rearranged the whole garage for him. When Renton came back, I used to give him verbal abuse. I would say things like, "You've been brainwashed and conned." I decided that seeing as Renton was going out every night, that it was my turn to go out. So 20 minutes before he was going out to show the plan, I informed him that he couldn't go out tonight because I was going out. And before he could get the keys, I took them and went out. We had one car then. I ended up going to the pictures that night, and the funny thing about that evening was that the film that I saw was The War of the Roses. I think some of you have seen that film. But for those of you who haven't, it's about a couple who get married and end up taking revenge on each other. Neither of them won and came to an unfortunate end. At the time, it gave me quite a few new ideas, though. It was free enterprise 3 months later, right on our wedding anniversary. Renton went on his own again, and this was the final straw. And on his return, I threatened him with my bags packed, and I said, "If you like this business more than me, well, you can go and marry your Amway." As you can see, I didn't leave, but things did ease off a little, and we moved into Renton's parents' house the following year. We got rid of our debt on selling the house, and Renton seemed to be a little less active with the business, and we were enjoying the summer. As Renton mentioned, this was a near time to him quitting, as Renton's parents thought that they were giving the right advice. And at last I had some support. His dad would say Renton ought to stick to what he knows best, being a chef, and I totally agreed. His dad invited us to see a hotel in Jersey, one that would mean us putting all of our money and borrowed money into it. His dad said that he would help us financially, but under one condition, if Renton would give up the business. Although this was one of Renton's dreams to own a hotel, he was not going to give up the business. And I was quite surprised, as Renton had always talked of having his own hotel. Well, we moved out of his parents' house into a small cottage, and I was still very negative towards the business, but Renton left me alone and didn't promote or force me to anything else. Over the next few months, the business grew for Renton, and the products grew as well. I did see the bonus checks coming through, and they were growing too. My first thoughts on this business was that it was not real. It was too good to be true, and that you had to have got in at the beginning to be successful. Well, Renton was proving me wrong. It was from then on that slowly my negative feelings were chipped out. There were always books around, and one in particular, The Secret of Living is Giving by Birdie Yeager, caught my eye. To this day I don't know why I picked it up, but I looked at the photographs first, and then I saw a quotation which read, "The strong-willed woman who insists that everything be done her way may be destroying her marriage, her man, and her future." Well, this stuck in my mind, and I then read more, and then this turned out to be a real turning point. But by then I had so much personal pride and a very stubborn streak that held me back to open up to Renton and admit that I was wrong. There was no overnight transformation from negative to positive. My introduction to the products was only due to Renton's disorganised manner. Renton is not the tidiest of people, so whenever the products came, he always got the house in such a terrible mess. There was always a sea of polystyrene packing chips all over the floor. And my melancholy nature got the better of me, and I'm sure to this day that Renton made such a mess deliberately so that I would eventually take over. Well, I helped out now and again with the products, which I did enjoy, as I wasn't forced. My attitude to the products changed, and I gradually used the products because I was willing. I liked them, especially the makeup, the jewellery, and the fragrances, and I also saw how the household products worked too. In June of that year, Renton looked very excited. He said, "We've gone direct." Well, I looked and said, "You've gone direct." I didn't want any credit. Renton could see that it didn't matter, and he said he really wanted me to come to family reunion. Jerry and Polly Hartise were speaking, and I think he knew that the function would really help me. I'd been against Renton for persisting on this business. I resented Upline for what I thought was an interference and invasion into our lives. And I felt really torn at that point because I wanted to go for Renton, but I knew that I had resisted and had been so destructive towards the business. What would everyone think? Renton assured me that the people in the business would not think like me, and what's happened has happened. It's in the past. Well, I agreed to go, but just for the Saturday night, and I insisted that Renton stayed with me and never to leave my side. Well, it's a function that I didn't want to go to, but proved to be a major turning point. Renton was always so positive that we could go direct. I had always doubted it. I never had the faith or vision. All the time that Renton had been persisting with this business, I was always looking for the catch, always worrying about the bills that were coming in. I was the one that lacked the vision. Well, we walked stage at that function as new direct distributors, and I was amazed with the growth. Because a year and a half ago, we went to Torquay with just a few hundred people, and now it's in Birmingham at the NEC with thousands. And I heard Polly Harteye speak that night, and it was as if she was speaking straight to me. It was just a few key words, like, allow yourself to make mistakes. Don't hang on to the negative that was in the past. See all the things you can have when you take your eyes off yourself and onto others. Those were the key words that made such an impact to me. I felt more comfortable as the night went on, and my wall of resistance that I built so high was being taken down bit by bit. I didn't know it then, 3 years ago, that today we would be speaking and sharing the same stage as Jerry and Polly Hartey's. It's a great honour. That weekend, we made a decision to come together and work as a team. On returning to Jersey, we counselled with Chris and Sue, and I admitted I had a lot of catching up to do, but I was made to feel at ease, as the books and tapes were there to help me. Before, Renton used to force me to read and listen to tapes, but then I had a closed mind, and I wouldn't read. I had a different attitude, and I felt I didn't need to change. I was now willing to change, learn and listen, and one of the first books that was recommended was Personality Plus. It explained how people act the way they do, and it really helped me. And in the first few pages, it says that you can turn your weaknesses into strengths and discover the true secret of bringing harmony into a relationship. Well, I could look back after reading that book that we had been together for 7 years without really knowing one another. Upline knew of the right tapes, and again, Jim and Pam Pierce's tape I was assured that I would relate to. Well, I did, because Pam was very negative, and I did relate to their story. It made me realise that everyone comes into this business at different stages, and Pam certainly did not see anything in the beginning. Well, I plugged into the system and attended the seminar and rallies. Sometimes it wasn't convenient or easy, but I was determined to make up for lost time. We worked hard together and qualified for leadership seminar in Sicily. The next year we moved to England, and it was going to be a fresh start for all of us. As Renton has already said, we moved from Jersey to England on the same weekend as Family Reunion 92. That's when I realised that my priorities had changed. Before it would have been really impossible and out of the question to go, but we did go because as nothing is more important to us now. At that function, we confirmed our joint decision to build this business together no matter what it takes. And I had to realise that our goal of reaching power was to do whatever it takes without exception or excuses. By going to all seminar and rallies and functions together, plugging into the system 100%, reading the positive mental attitude books and using the knowledge from the tapes, because this built up my confidence and got my attitude right. And once your attitude is right, you can accomplish so much. So step by step, I believed I could improve myself. And I'm sure under every shy person there is someone trying to come out. Well, this business has given me such a better self-image. This business has taken the lid off my dreams I never thought would be our dreams. I always thought the nice cars and houses were for other people. A few short years ago, I always used to hear that this business is fun. Well, now I know that that is absolutely true, because we certainly have enjoyed all the different places we have visited. On the journey from direct to apparel, we have been to Scotland, Ireland, Guernsey, we've been back to Jersey, and all over the UK. The times Renton went to functions on his own on our wedding anniversary have been rewarded by spending the last 3 years in places like Sicily, Cyprus and Madeira, all on our wedding anniversary. That was special. and to spend it with some of the very special friends that we have made through this business. I'm also a full-time mum to our 3 children, and due to this business, I will never have to go out to work. And there is nothing that can take place of time spent with your children. Our children are our inspiration to us. They have seen the rewards of having 2 parents who are working together and have a loving relationship, which in turn rubs off onto them. They are growing with positive attitudes. Lloyd is our youngest and has pictures of motorbikes everywhere, especially the 4-wheel kind. He's defined his dreams. He is 5 and he's already practicing to show the plan. We have a spare whiteboard and pens in the kitchen, and one day I came into the kitchen to find Lloyd setting up a meeting with all the dollies and teddies from the bedrooms and anything else that had 2 eyes and a mouth. Well, the board was covered in circles, and he's learning quick. Lauren has her dreams of having a pony, and Elliot has a glass-framed picture full of pictures of Disney World, photos of Mickey Mouse, the Magic Kingdom, and the massive ice creams. Children can dream big. There are no limits in their eyes. Our children are our reason to build this business, never our excuse. And by working together, it's pulled us closer together as a couple. I've learned I've always been married to a winner, and our relationship is for the better. But we are by no means perfect. We still have our occasional differences of opinion, but they are not like the high-volume discussions that we used to have. They only last 2 minutes now instead of 2 weeks or more. And I can remember the type of conversation that we used to have, or the lack of it, like pass the salt, or less than positive messages left for each other.